I'm an autism awareness angel, making sure my wings protect the different, the stranger than. I'm an autism awareness angel. It's good, cause I'm cool with the unique behavior. I'm an autism awareness angel. Will you accept me? Cause I accept you. I'm an autism awareness angel, cause a view from the spectrum is a better point of view. The question at hand, are you aware of autism?
Hello, I'm Talie, and today on our podcast, we're talking about a subject that I adore, school. And the reason why I love school is because I used to be a teacher before becoming a mother and before hosting this podcast. For those of you that haven't been to my website, autism30.com, you might not know that I was a teacher for 20 years, and I've taught from kindergarten all the way to college level, and I've taught in 3 different continents in various schools. I've taught in public and private schools, and I've learned a lot about that experience, which I brought forward when I was looking for a prospective school for my own son. You see, what I've learned throughout my education and the education that I imparted to others is that all students want from their teachers is to be heard, respected, loved, and to learn from in a protective, safe environment. All good teachers want to make a positive difference in the lives of their students they teach and be appreciated for their work. And all good parents want for their children is what they had when they went to school and achieve even more than they did. Please note that I have a disclaimer that means I'm totally aware that every family is different and that everyone's requirement and needs may be vastly different from my own. You should be clear about what those are for you. This podcast will only address my opinions and thoughts based on my own experience. Therefore, you may find some information useful and some may not fit your needs, but note that my intention is to help those who may feel overwhelmed at where to start their search for the perfect school for their perfect child. The job of a parent, in my opinion, is to find the best teachers, administrators, and environment for their children so that their children have the best chance. All children want the greatest schools, but our children have special requirements and needs that must be addressed if they ever stand a chance at a great outcome. What truly matters. The prettiness of a building doesn't matter, in my opinion, in comparison to the faculty that does. What I mean by that is many parents walk through a school and look at how modern and updated the fixtures are and are completely awestruck and make their decisions just based on that. Now, of course, if the building is filled with mold and asbestos and isn't earthquake-proof, etc., those are real concerns which, of course, need to be addressed. However, the real impact that will make the difference are the people your child will be interacting with every day and placing their stamp on who they are. Assumptions. Don't assume that your child's school is going to be like it was when you were a child. It probably isn't. Not only have times changed, but so have attitudes and teaching methodology. Don't assume that your only option is your local school district school. It often isn't. Just inquire with your local school board and other members around your local area. Don't assume that everyone will care for and love your child like you do. It would be really nice if they did, but the reality of the situation is some just don't. Don't assume that your child's educator has the same philosophy that you do when it comes to the following: behavior modification, your child's potential, and autism treatment and outcomes. You must always place your own child as a priority, and that's why advocating is so important. It's like standing a line 2 feet away from the actual line and getting frustrated that it's never your turn. The one in the line and the one making the noise gets seen and heard and gets to go forward. That's just the reality. It's not pretty, but that's just the truth. Now, how to decide on a school. Many people have spoken about this, that, and the other, but my experience has given me the opportunity to see things from all sides and given me an advantage, which I'm telling you about. Therefore, I'm going to fill you in on what I did, and I'm truly grateful for the fact that I personally did this. Make a list of schools. That's right, it sounds simple, but go around your area and where you live and make a list of the schools that interest you for a possibility for your child. Read as much as you can on all those schools on social media sites, their own webpage, Facebook, Rate My Teacher, Twitter, Google, etc. Make notes on all of them. Now, not all the information you're going to read is accurate, and some may be downright false, but over time you might get an image of the school that you may clarify later. And also ask other parents in your area who attend those various schools and ask them for input. Once you've done that, create a list of questions that you think is important to ask for. I'm going to go through my list later on in the podcast, but be clear about what your wish list is. The following step: make an appointment to see and speak to somebody. Remember that this meeting should only take place with the parents or guardians only. Leave your children at home for this. It's not appropriate for them to be there with you. Now make sure you speak with the headmaster preferably, or the vice principal, then following the teacher, etc. But make sure you speak to somebody who is able to answer all of your questions. Now the day of the interview, arrive at least 20 minutes early. Now, that's for a lot of reasons. One is, of course, to show respect, because to arrive late is quite disrespectful, and to arrive early actually gives you an added advantage. When I arrive 20 minutes early at the school, I'm observing the staff and student interactions, tone and manners and energy of the other students and the staff. I'm able to observe the walls and the posters and see what's written. And if you have a chance, go outside and observe the play, which is really important. Now go down the list once you're in the interview. Go down your list and ask all of the questions, and feel free to go off script if you need to, but make sure at that time that all of your questions are answered before you leave, because to form two meetings really could waste valuable time and your own. Now here's the key. Be polite, always positive, even if you don't like something that's being said to you, and be appreciative of the time that they've given you for that meeting. At the end of the meeting, please thank you and appreciation to everyone, including the person you interviewed, the secretary, etc. And once you leave the school, please, I cannot stress this enough, write down notes. And the reason why I'm asking you to do this is inevitably, like everyone, unless you have an eidetic memory, you end up forgetting what was said at a various school and you end up jumbling them up. So it's really imperative that you write down all of your thoughts for that day within an hour of leaving that school so you don't forget any vital tips and information that you collected. Now, once you've visited all the schools, take your time and weigh your options. Typically, at the end of visiting all the schools, one school or two schools will really stand out, and inevitably you'll choose one. Remember, there is no perfect school, but you can find the best school you can for your child. I know many say that this is a lot of work, that the school should just be good enough, and I'm only able to send my child to the local school, and the fact that I have no other options leads me to place my child where they are, and often they're dissatisfied. Who has all the time for this, they say? I personally never understood those statements. You see, I'll never understand people that will research for months on what car would be a good one to buy, and yet they don't make inquiries that will have a lasting impact on their child's life about the school that they will be, quote unquote, driving for the next few years. Now, I'm going to go over a couple of questions that I had on my list that may interest you. Now, remember, these are my own personal lists and that you really have to create your own based on what you desire your personal school to have. Questions that I had based on my experience as a teacher is the first one, and I know it's a bone of contention right now, is how many students will be there in my child's class, which seems like an obvious one, but it's really important to find out how much individual attention my child has a possibility of getting. How long have your teachers been with the school, and will they be here next year? Now, the reason why I asked that question is because staff turnovers at some schools can be quite daunting, and even if you do meet that teacher on the day, there won't be a guarantee they'll be there next year. So these are questions that are really important to me. How does the school handle children with autism, and is it a problem for you? What is the protocol? Now, I ask these questions to see their response and to find out what their answers are. What is the school's philosophy and attitudes towards special needs children? Every school is different and every school is unique, so it's really important that you get your input. What are the teachers' experiences with children with autism, and have they had professional development training about the subject? Some teachers have only had one lesson years ago about autism, and some teachers don't really have any experience at all with autism, and your child will be encountering them for the first time. I think it's really important that you know what level of education those teachers do have so that they can have an educated guess about what your child is going through. How have past students with autism reached their full potential at your school? How can you ensure that my child's gifts and talents will be developed and his or her weakness challenged? I mean, I could go on and on about my list, but these are questions that are really important to me, and I'm sure your list of questions will be really important to you. So when you're creating your list, keep questions that you have that are really important to you up at the top of the list. And I will have this list and the next one on my webpage for you to view and download at autism30.com. Now, the other one is a page I form for each prospective school that I'm visiting. At the top of the page, I will have the school name and address, telephone number, and email. I'll have the name of the person that I'm interviewing, and this is really important because unfortunately, if some of you like me, I have a terrible memory for names, and this ensures that I don't forget the person's name before going to the interview. I have the date and time of that interview listed on my page. And here's something really important. My current feelings going into the meeting. Inevitably, something might have happened that morning that might have gotten you not in the best of moods. So it's really important to be cognizant of your state of mind going into the meeting, because you don't want to have that affect the knowledge coming forward and for you to make the decisions for later on. And you also want to have on that page information that you learned prior to going into the meeting, because you want certain facts that you learned online or speaking with other parents clarified if you have any questions or concerns. Then this is what you really need to get done within the hour after going to the visiting school, your overall impression of the place. And at the bottom of the page, you have a no, maybe, and a yes. And here's something that is really important. Send a thank you note or email to the person that you interviewed for the meeting today. That will go a long way to tell them that you appreciated their time, and it actually bodes well for your child if your child will be going to that school. It sets up a really good relationship. Now that you've collated all the sheets that you've written down about each particular school, and you've had time to reflect on all the information that you've been given, you finally decide on a school to send your child to, which is wonderful. Congratulations. Here's the kicker. This is when the real work starts. because you are now working on developing the relationship with your child and the school. It's really important to create a positive impression of the school on your child before the beginning of school, not at the beginning, not on day one, long before. This will not only help your child adjust easier to the transition, but it will also benefit you because you'll be more comfortable and confident sending them there. Things you can do to prepare for your child prior to the first day of school. Have a meeting with everyone, and I mean everyone, your child's therapist, your child's social worker, speech pathologist, behavior interventionist, and make sure the headmaster's there, the teachers there, the EAs, etc. Have the whole gamut of people that are working with your child. And the reason why this is really important is to make sure that everyone meets everyone and everyone is working on the same page so that everyone is clear about what each person is working on with my child, and it gives the ability for the teachers and the headmasters and so on to get a clear view of the needs of that child, of your child. And the next thing is at that meeting, because people are giving their time, it would really be a kind gesture, if you can and can afford it, to provide a sweet little thing like donuts or coffee for people. But that's only a suggestion. The next thing you want to do is visit the school many times before the start. Visit the playground, have them walk around inside the building. Even during the summer holidays, if the building is open, visit the classroom, visit the lockers. That way, it's not going to be a completely foreign land before day one. And the following thing that many schools do, and I know my son's school did as well, which is a fabulous idea, is create a picture book. Often the school does this for your child, but if they don't, create one yourself. Now, in the picture book, it has pictures of your child's classroom, lockers, teachers' faces from around the school, the front door, the bathrooms, etc., so that they can get a clear idea of what's around them. The next thing you want to do is have your child meet the teacher and EA individually. Now, this is a separate meeting from the one that I mentioned before. So your child has a chance to ask questions if they can, or for you, your child, the teacher, and the EA to be in a room together so that your child knows this is okay. And so when you remove yourself from the equation on day one, it doesn't come as such a jolt. And the reason you want to do all of this is to start your child on the right path on the first day of school. When you are starting school, one of the first things you'll be called in for is an IEP, or Individual Education Plan meeting. In this meeting, this is where goals are made and agreed upon by all. And when I mean all, I mean you as the parent have a major part to play. The school doesn't make all the final decisions. You also have input. They must be approved and agreed upon by you. This also has a deadline as well, so look up in your own area when this actually is. Now, often what gets asked is, who's allowed at these IEP meetings? Here's the reality, and in British Columbia, it's law. The parent, you have the right to invite anybody that you would like at these meetings to attend so that they can also have input as well, so long as it's agreed upon by you. The school doesn't make the final decisions on these facts. It's you, the parent. Throughout the school year, I strongly suggest you buy and use a communication book to record everything. That's what I use. Some people use email, and some people even use handheld recording devices to record notes that you'll inevitably have at what could be a dozen meetings throughout the year. You want to make sure that all of this is recorded and documented for yourself and the administration if they so need be. And don't delete it. Keep everything in storage. The following thing you have to be clear on is communication with administration and your rights. It's really important for you to understand your rights as a parent within a school and to have clear and flowing communication and polite communication with administration and faculty. Clarity and expectations of thought. Make sure that all of your communication is well thought out before and clear. I know I've had some days when I've gone in, and because I didn't think too hard on a fact or whatnot when I was going to speak to my child's EA, I know I left that interaction thinking, I'm not really sure if she understood me because I wasn't really clear in my own head. You don't want to waste anyone's time around you, and don't make my mistakes on a couple of ones that I did have. And expectations. It's really important that everybody has the same expectations of each other. And don't be afraid to ask for what you want. I cannot stress that enough. And advocate, advocate, advocate. Your child might not have a voice, and you are their voice. And always remember that manners, politeness, and respect goes a long way. You are more likely to attract bees with honey than vinegar, and if you can't, this will impact your ability to have input, which will be a real shame for your child. When dealing with an issue, don't assume the worst right off the bat. Ask questions, as it may just be a communication issue with a member of faculty or an administration. If you realize that it's not just a communication, then of course take the appropriate course of action to deal with that situation, but remember, always do it in a respectful, polite way. I remember, like I'm sure many of you, have had teachers that have not only changed your lives, but have made such an impact in them as well, that we're grateful for the experience of their education. Here's the thing. I've been in all positions: teacher, head of department, and of course I was a student. I can see things from all sides. But my role has changed. I'm now a mother. I can have empathy for all children, but my job now is to make sure that my child is my priority. You see, as a teacher, I wanted to save all my children who were my students. Now, as a mother, who is no longer in a classroom, my focus must be on advocacy and making sure that my child has the best. The other parents should and could do the same for theirs. The reason why I'm saying this is because, you see, I've heard parents say, that Talie is asking for the moon. My child doesn't have X, Y, and Z. I've heard now that she's demanding, too assertive, asking for too much from other parents. This comes from parents that don't ask for what they want, that are often envious of what my child has received, but haven't put the work in, and they complain. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because it is possible for all children to get what my child is getting. You just have to ask. And it's no good listening to what other parents think and what other parents are saying about you, because ultimately your role as a parent, of course, in my opinion, is to look out for the best interest of your child. You know, I've even gone up to the headmaster after hearing all of this, who I absolutely adore. My child's headmaster is a dream headmaster. And I looked at him one day and I said, you know, I'm the impossible parent. And he laughed and he said, no, I wouldn't call you impossible. I would say you're intense. And the reason is I expect certain things, but he's the exact same way. And because he's the exact same way, I know he delivers quality education, and we have a strong respect for one another, which I absolutely adore. It's weird and sometimes uncomfortable knowing what I know, but I do know that in the end, the only person I care about is my child. I'm also not asking for anything that I wouldn't have done for my own students. When I was a teacher, I was a workaholic and devoted to the lives of my students. As a matter of fact, my life was all about my students. And all I want for my son's educators is to do the same for my child. The circle of life. Here's the thing. Just like a car, you can be lucky and buy a random car without research, and you can drive it around for 20 years no problem, and it will never have an issue. But that's not the norm. That's the exception. Or you can do your homework and find the best make and model and deal for your family, which is more likely to work out. It's your choice. But as an adult, you must face the responsibility of your choices. Our children aren't adult yet, and we must therefore act as their adult, the self-advocate. And we are their advocate. I've hoped you found this podcast useful, and I know many of you in the next coming months will be searching for a school to register your child for in January, I believe. If you have any comments, please don't forget to go to the Autism 30 webpage and click on the word contact and send me your ideas. And on that webpage, you'll find in the box the 2 papers to the list of questions and the form for the school that I actually used for my own interviews for my own child. And if you're listening to us on iTunes, please don't forget to write a review, as this helps the Autism 30 podcast remain at the top of the list so people who are searching for autism information have an easier time to do so. And we really value you, our Autism 30 audience. Once again, this is Talie telling you to live in love.
Hey yo, I'm an autism awareness angel, making sure my wings protect the different, the stranger than I'm an autism awareness angel. It's good.